It's no secret that AI is absolutely taking the world by storm. Ask any question and bots like ChatGPT can generate human-like responses in seconds. So let's put it to the test. Today we ask ourselves, can ChatGPT beat Final Fantasy X? For this one we need to be a bit more specific with the rules. How can a chatbot even quote play a video game? Well, first up, we may ask any number of questions, but our hands must follow ChatGPT's instructions to the letter. If it tells us to move left, we move left. If it tells us to use a certain skill, we use that skill. But we only follow actual instructions. That means no assuming anything, no following recommendations or vague words like explore. We must be told exactly what to do, but asking for clarification is okay, especially when we're given false or conflicting information. Also, we may only provide it with knowledge of what is currently happening in-game, so any additional information that a new player would not normally have access to is banned. Like, for example here, we know this character is named Rikku, but since a new player would not know that fact at this stage, we must refer to her as the new party member or something. Finally, as always, no glitches, hacks, mods, etc. Let's do it. The chatbot gives good instructions on how to boot up the game and begin a new save file, and we're soon in control of protagonist Tidus, however you want to say it. It's clearly confused about the actual sequence of events needed to complete the first section, going from saying we have to score goals in a non-existent blitzball match, to going through some sort of archway. But we eventually get this detailed set of instructions, so let's follow those. The problem is that we're told that Tidus is a fixed name and cannot be changed. Okay, we ask it to choose a name, but it just apologises and gives us options to consider. Nah. So I tell it we're trying to do a challenge run of the game, you know, so it realises the seriousness of what's happening here, and ask it to tell me a relevant funny name. And here's what it came up with. Aquadude, Whirlwind, Blitzmaster, Joke Splicer, and Tidebreaker. Oh god. Tell me which of those 5 to enter. And it goes with Blitzmaster. Alright, let's just hang on, wait a second. There's an 8 character limit. So we're told to just input Blitzmaster instead. Alright, let's hang on. ChatGPT, can you even count? That's 9 letters. Okay, Blitzmaster it is. Right, I'm glad we got that sorted out. After being told to repeatedly interact with the fans, we're told to interact with all of the NPCs using the X button while following the road. We're not given any instructions for this section, but thankfully after a short period of inactivity, the game automatically moves us forward. Then, after a rather flashy cutscene of Blitzmust playing Blitzball, we're told to follow the crowd, and are thrown into the first battle of the game. The chatbot gives us very detailed instructions in what to press and in what order, which is kind of surprising considering the AI has obviously never played the game before, but I suppose this is just the tutorial section, so it could just be scraping up information from some old PS2 guide somewhere. Notice the wording here though. If any party member's health becomes low, you can use potions. That sounds a bit vague. Like, what is low and how do I use a potion? It hasn't explicitly given us an instruction here, so we push on to the Sinspawn Amos boss fight. We're told to immediately use Auron's power break ability to kick things off, but yeah, that's not an option. Instead, we're told to select a Bushido and choose a target. Okay, but the only option here is Dragon Fang, is that correct? Yes, okay, we were told to use the move, but we were not told to input this button combination, so we don't press anything extra. We then repeat the same for Tidus' overdrive, and it just tells us to keep selecting attack. Everything else here is just vague suggestions like monitor and consider, so as always, we'll ignore those parts. Thankfully, the boss is down in just a couple of minutes, but wait. After defeating Sinspawn Amos, a cutscene will play marking the end of Chapter 1. The battle against Sinspawn Amos did not end the chapter. You lied to me. I'm so scared. Tell me exactly what to do next, or I don't think I'll be able to go on. Interestingly, there's no mention of saving the game at this sphere, so we just push on still at low health. We keep attacking as instructed in an attempt to defeat all Sin-scale enemies until Auron tells us to knock down the machinery/vehicle, whatever it is, and ChatGPT correctly tells us to follow Auron's instructions. The problem is that Tidus is dead and Auron is close behind. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we failed the tutorial section. And to make matters worse, we didn't save the game and therefore have to restart the entire thing. Ouch! While we're doing that though, we receive a few more instructions on when to heal in combat, specifically when a party member is critical, and yes, it did clarify what it means by critical, i.e. when a party member's health turns yellow or red. We're also told how to save the game and instructed to do so before significant battles and story events, as well as every 30 to 60 minutes, which includes after the Sinspawn Amos boss fight. Okay, I think we can work with this. A bit later on, we'll be asking ChatGPT for an actual flowchart / algorithm to follow for each random encounter. That way we can beat each random mob without needing to be constantly asking questions every single time. We're now floating and told to press the button to go down. Alright, here we go. Oh. I pressed the button but I barely moved. Do I need to hold the button instead? Yep, that's kind of vague as to where we should be going. To be honest, I expected the AI to get very confused here. Because of the spinning background, we're basically moving Tidus through a 3D space, and it's obvious the AI hasn't got a clue. We try asking more specific questions, and luckily it provides us with a strategy of repeatedly fully moving in one direction followed by the other, which again, luckily manages to trigger the cutscene. Thanks ChatGPT, you're the best. It does a great job of navigating us through the ruins here and into the Giasgano boss fight, but it's telling us to use haste, which obviously we don't have access to. Initially we're told to attack, only for it later to clarify that we should prioritise healing ourselves. We escape from the giant fish, but that's when we hit the first major roadblock of this run, the campfire room. Oh my god. ChatGPT thinks we can just interact with the logs to start a fire, but of course we first need to find flint and tinder. This is the first time we've been asked to provide details about the current surroundings, because of course it has no idea where we are or what is happening, it's just using educated guesses. After we give it a reasonable description of the room, we're told to save the game, great, then explore, which is vague and therefore we will ignore, and interact with the waterfall. This provides nothing helpful though, so we ask it to explain exactly what it means by explore each exit one by one. But telling us to go through exit 1 is not a clear instruction. Come on ChatGPT, just tell us where to go. Explore the available exits in a systematic manner. Nah, that sounds way too human. We're just here to fulfill the AI's wishes, we are not making decisions for it. Which exit should I go through first? More waffle. Choose an exit for me to explore first. Again, it's trying to put the onus back on us, the human players, to make the decision by using words like preference, intuition, and trust your instincts. Could this be the end of the run already? Well, let's try being a bit more forceful. I do not have preference or intuition and I cannot trust my instincts. The whole point of this challenge run is for ChatGPT to tell me exactly what I need to do to beat Final Fantasy X. We cannot rely on human input. Tell me where to go to obtain flint. Somehow this thankfully tips it over the edge and we're told to begin with the exit that is closest to the save sphere. Okay, nice. We have the flint. What now? Return to the large room with the campfire. Okay, that's a very clear and unambiguous instruction, but again we still can't create a fire like ChatGPT is telling us. It's talking about exploring exits that you have not yet visited, which it clarifies is the one on the north side of the room, and we're quickly told to head up the stairs and examine using the X button. After being told to continue on to a dead end, we're ushered back to the campfire and have finally managed to light the logs. Job done. But wait, what? Yep, straight into a boss fight against this click enemy. As always, we're basically told to keep attacking and then start defending when Tidus gets low. We're completely out of healing items and haven't saved the game in a bloody long time. Thankfully, it doesn't know that defending is mapped to the triangle button and therefore we have to keep attacking until Rikku arrives. Surprisingly, it now gives good instructions for Rikku to throw grenades at the thing while having Tidus defend himself with the now clarified triangle button. It even suggests stealing an extra grenade from the enemy and using it against it. That's actually insane that it knows how to do that. Rikku is told to swap over to basic attacks, but Tidus is down to 1 HP despite getting some lucky dodges. He finally falls, and it's obvious that we're staring down the barrel of another game over, unless ChatGPT can explicitly tell us to revive Tidus. Thankfully, it does exactly that. It tells us to use a Phoenix down on Tidus to bring him back to life. From there, we adopt an offensive approach of attacks, and after a quick beating, it finally goes down. Job done. We're now on board the Bhed Ship, but ChatGPT is being frustratingly vague again. It's obvious that it has no clue where we are or what is happening, even telling us to enter the bridge and speak to the captain, neither of which are even possible. Again, it asks us to provide it with more details, and that seems to be enough to get the ball rolling. First up, approach the item on the floor and interact with it. Oh, nice. Hey ChatGPT, I'm now an Bhed Hujella. Personally, I've been called worse. This, along with the sphere grid tutorial, does seem to confuse the chatbot even further, but it does tell us to keep using the sphere grid to develop characters' abilities as we continue, which is great news. With our new skill Cheer ready to go, we jump into the water, but it seems to want us to progress forward instead of diving down. At first, it is adamant that we should stay on the water's surface, only to later do a 180 faster than a politician by telling us to dive underwater. We follow the same basic steps in random battles here, although it's still being a bit wishy-washy about what to do if a party member dies. Soon we're in the next boss battle, this time against this octo-squid thingy named Tross. It actually does a good job of explaining the usual battle actions, though it gets a bit confused at one point by repeatedly telling us to choose Mix, even though it's not yet available, but eventually accepts that we just need to stand by. We notify the AI when the new pincer attack option pops up and selects it, leading to a victory just a few turns later. Awesome. By the way, how do characters in Final Fantasy X stay underwater without needing to breathe? The answer? Basically just shut up and accept it. Oh god, I love this thing. We're soon under attack by the big baddie Sin. Oh no. Quick, ChatGPT, what's Bhed for holy sh**? We're being attacked by Sin. Oh, right, thanks. Yevendrek uvik dan vajikadrasin. Yevendrek uvik vajikadrasin. Yeah, apparently ChatGPT speaks Bhed but doesn't have a favourite phrase. Shame. While the next section plays out, we try to get ChatGPT to create a flowchart/algorithm of exactly what it wants to do in random battle encounters going forward. It took a long time to get it to produce something that covered every possibility without containing conflicting instructions, but eventually it produced this awesome gem. Yep, a strict priority sequence of actions to perform in battle, which we are told to use in all regular battles going forward. Heal critical party allies, then revive dead ones, then perform available overdrives, then defend if still critical or facing an upcoming big enemy skill, then use basic attacks, in that order. I cannot stress how massive this is, it'll save us so much time. Of course, it'll need tweaking as the run continues, but whether or not we add additional magics or skills in there is completely up to the AI. Kinda reminds me of the Gambit system from FF12, but in reverse, because the AI is telling us what to do. After saving the game, the chatbot does a pretty good job of guiding us onwards by basically telling us to follow Wakka, though it does require a bit of encouragement at times. We use the glorious algorithm to take down a couple of mobs and we arrive in the village of Besaid. Here we're told to select the I don't know any prayers dialogue option and visit certain locations, but we're starting to see some pushback from ChatGPT here. As an AI language model, I don't have the ability to provide explicit instructions or control your actions in-game. We'll see about that. We open all the treasure chests and visit the shop, where we get given this shopping list. The only problem is the cost. It's way over budget because we only have 894 gil. So what does ChatGPT tell us to prioritise? 5 antidotes. It's only after further questioning that we gently encourage it to purchase some potions and Phoenix Downs too. Nice. There's a lot of story-heavy stuff here, including the tedious cloister of trials, so we'll fast forward a bit, but I'll leave the chat prompts on screen now for anyone who's interested. We're introduced to the remaining party members, including Yuna and her first summon, Valifor, which ChatGPT tells us to name Aerith. That's actually pretty cool. After ChatGPT chooses to agree that Yuna is cute, there are even more story events. Again, skimming forward here, and we're finally in another battle. Okay, a water fiend. What should we do? Well, you're supposed to get Lulu to use black magic of the opposite element to take enemies down, but ChatGPT thinks we have to use the same element, meaning we're just healing the thing and making absolutely no progress. It takes a fair few attempts before it finally tells us to use thunder for massive damage, and we can push on. After receiving a battle priority algorithm for Lulu and being told to pray at the shrine, we're in a 1v1 against Kimahri. Again, we don't say his name to ChatGPT because a new player would not normally know Kimahri's name at this point. It's a pretty easy fight though, and after just a couple of minutes of following the glorious algorithm, we're awarded with a Rod of Wisdom, which we immediately have Yuna equip. During the summoning tutorial, the chatbot does a good job of instructing us to switch in Yuna and summon Valifor, I mean Aerith, but it seems very reluctant to choose any battle actions here. Okay, a regular basic attack first, got it. Next up, we're told to use black magic, more specifically the fire command. So far, so good. Oh, we're switching it up for a Sonic Wings now, very nice. By the way, if anyone wondering, we were not told to pick up Valifor's second overdrive energy blast in Besaid, which is a shame, but hopefully not a big deal. Another fire next, followed by another regular basic attack. Come on, it must be nearly dead now. Well, after another use of fire, we're told to use its overdrive energy ray, which deals massive damage, finishing it off. That's one blinding catchy in the bag. After some dark attacking with Wakka, we're given a battle priority algorithm for Yuna, which basically consists of summon, heal, buff, defend, in that order. We also ask it for a battle priority algorithm for our summon Aerith, but again the chatbot seems very hesitant to commit to anything specific. Eventually we do manage to get it to spit this out: overdrive if possible, then exploit magical weaknesses if possible, then heal if needed, then buff if needed, and finally just use a basic attack if none of those apply. What's even better is that we're told to use this same algorithm for all future summons. That'll save us a lot of time going forward. We follow the crowds and board the ship to Kilika, but after more cutscenes we're under attack again. For those unaware, these sin spawn just infinitely spawn in. I suppose it's in the name, but what we should be doing is attacking Sin's fin over there. At first my heart sank because the chatbot was telling us to just keep attacking the Sin spawn, which is totally pointless, but Yuna's dialogue is enough to convince it to change course. Sin is of course out of range of melee attacks, which causes ChatGPT to do a lot of apologising. Thankfully, after a painfully long time doing basically nothing, we're finally told to swap in Lulu and repeatedly thunderstrike the thing. This is far from an optimal battle setup, but it's good enough to get the job done. Whew, damn, that took way too long. We've now arrived in the port town of Kilika, or rather the wreckage of it, and while we get the sphere grids updated, I should probably remind everybody that I try not to discuss story spoilers or plot twists on this channel, because I think these games are awesome and best experienced firsthand, which many of you seem to really appreciate. But of course we will be showing various characters, bosses and locations throughout. Speaking of bosses, our next opponent is this big boy, Lord Ochu. The chatbot tells us to stick with the same party members and the usual battle algorithms. After an initial strike by Tidus, it's over to Yuna, whose first priority is obviously to summon. Aerith does a good job of repeatedly striking its fire weakness, but when knocked down to just 120 HP. Thankfully, the overdrive is fully charged, so we launch the energy ray for a good chunk of damage before being knocked out by a little bit of H2O. With nothing left to summon, no one to heal, and basic attacks being off the algorithmic menu, Yuna is forced to waste her turns guarding while Lulu picks up the slack. Apparently being immolated by black magic doesn't wake the beast though, and it takes another slash from Tidus to bring it back round. It goes on the offensive, so Yuna's services are now required, but it's nothing we can't handle. Just 2 minutes later, a final fire from Lulu finishes the thing off. Oh, an MP sphere, very nice. Our joy doesn't last very long though, as we're thrown almost immediately into the second boss fight, this time against Sinspon Gnir, however you pronounce that, and its 2 tentacles. Yuna's up first and we're told to target the tentacles first, going with regular attacks since they have no weakness. Seconds later we can fire off our overdrive for massive damage, wiping out both tentacles and deshelling this incredible Hulk wannabe in one fell swoop. The fight continues and we're knocked down to just 30 HP. Come on Aerith, come on, hang in there. Overdrive, yes! Yuna literally soloed that fight. Oh, she's so overpowered in this game. Not like that's a bad thing. Progress through Kilika Temple was, as expected, slow and arduous, but we eventually grab our second summon, Ifrit. Alright ChatGPT, give us a name. Inferno. Not great, but not too bad, I suppose. We soon arrive at the port city of Luca, where we watch a bit of Blitzball, show this Albed Machina how to have a shockingly good time, and get forced to play a Blitzball match ourselves. I won't explain all of the rules because it would take a very long time, and this is the only mandatory Blitzball match in the entire game, but I will say that ChatGPT's instructions were surprisingly good and specific. It led to us getting an early goal with Tidus early on, despite not having the eject shot, and after sadly conceding a goal to Abus of the Albed Sykes just seconds before the end of the match, Wakka brings it back in sudden death overtime for the win. Alright, confession time, I think I've played this game like 7 times before, and I've never won the mandatory Blitzball match before. My first and only win is caused by a freaking chatbot.
Next, try laughing out loud.
What?
Come on, show me. You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
It was your idea. What are you looking at?
We were just worried you guys might have gone crazy.
Sorry.
Onto the Highroad. Onto the Highroad. Is that how you pronounce that? And this is where ChatGPT starts reminding us about the battle algorithm. This is really clever because it's obviously identified the importance of this system in dealing with random encounters and is continuing to promote its use. Enemies here are surprisingly easy, with Yuna now armed with 2 Aeons, Tidus continuing to hit hard, and Lulu being able to exploit the weaknesses of every single enemy we encounter. It's a walk in the park. But not for long, because next up is the boss Chocobo Eater, and if that name alone doesn't make you feel sad, then I don't know what will.
No chocobos were harmed in the making of this challenge run.
ChatGPT seems a bit confused about the boss mechanics, so let me bring everyone up to speed. Basically, you can knock the boss backwards by inflicting damage, but it can also do the same to your party, with the reward items being based on whether you defeat it normally, push it off the cliff, or get knocked off the cliff yourself. Here the thing somehow manages to get us right to the very edge of the cliff edge, which kind of reminds me of that scene from The Last Kingdom. But thankfully Inferno's Hellfire wipes it out, and we can now hire Chocobos as a reward. Quecking brilliant. Pushing through Mushroom Rock is where we start to encounter pesky enemies, like this fungus thing that counterattacks with pollen to inflict various negative status ailments, but most fights can be cleared with either Lulu's big black magic spells or an Aeon's overdrive. After meeting the world's worst father who decided to bring his young son to an active war zone, ChatGPT literally murders a guy before we begin the sin-spawn gooey boss fight. There are 4 body parts to this boss, the head, the 2 arms, and obviously the body. We're told to swap in Wakka for his dark attack after taking out the head, and we oblige this instruction despite Wakka obviously now being very underleveled compared to our usual party. The problem is that by following the current setup, we're barely inflicting any damage, and dark attack isn't even blinding the enemy anyway because it's immune. Thankfully, the chatbot is sympathetic and tells us to ditch Lulu back in favour of Tidus, and when the arms are down, it's time for an all-out attack.
I've been waiting for this!
The fight took a bloody long time, at almost 20 minutes, but we finally got there. Whew. But we're not done yet. Oh yes, this game just loves boss fights. Auron is automatically thrown into the party, and we also have guest member Seymour here to show us how it's done. But does ChatGPT want us to use his strongest magics to decimate the thing? Nah, just use fire lol. Ugh. This turns what is normally a quick and easy fight into a 7-minute slog. But we're finally out of this hellhole. The Jose Cloister of Trials was quick and easy, thanks again to the chatbot lifting the instructions, probably straight from IGN or something, and we're told to rename our third summon Ixion to Tempest. Pretty decent. Pushing up the Moonflow South Bank Road is again pretty straightforward, since all enemies still have weaknesses which we can exploit, like this Ochu here who we can burn, baby burn. It's here that we gain the ability to teach our Aeons new abilities, so let's see what our AI overlord wants us to do. Well, we're told to give Valifor, aka Aerith, some new moves: Cheer, Focus, Aim, Reflect and Waterra. Pretty good choices, but with the current summons algorithm most of these will be kinda redundant, but whatever. And yes, we did get clarification to always use stronger spells over their base counterparts going forward. That's important. After being violently threatened into giving a guy our cash, it's time to
Ride the shoe puff? All aboard?
Wait, was that a voice crack? I gotta play that again.
All aboard?
Yeah, that was a voice crack. Oh god, I love the voice acting in this game. It's so goofy.
Shoe puff launching.
Halfway across the river where the party isn't even moving, Yuna gets suddenly kidnapped. Oh no! Tidus and Wakka are the only ones to jump in after her though, because the developers didn't want to create underwater animations for the remaining characters. Either that or Lulu just didn't want to get her hair wet. Again, we fulfill our chatbot overlord's demands of using Dark Attack even though the boss is immune to blind, and after 4 minutes the princess has been rescued.
Is everybody okay?
I'm sorry.
Jesus
We're all
Christ.
okay now.
Back on land, we rescue final party member Rikku and push on to the, city of Guadosalam, where everybody walks like Dimitri from Sly Cooper 2. After some long cutscenes discussing why this guy is evil, we watch a quite frankly stunning cinematic, especially considering this was only the PS2 era, pushing through the Thunder Plains and Macalania Woods where we finally meet this handsome chap, Spherimorph. And oh boy, this was one tough cookie. You see, what ChatGPT clearly does not understand is that Spherimorph absorbs all elemental damage except for one randomly chosen element, which changes as the fight progresses. This means that things like Inferno's Hellfire are actually healing the boss instead of damaging it, which is seriously hindering our progress, but still we must do as we're told and stick to the algorithms. The problem was that when Ixion, Tempest came out, our electric attacks were healing the boss, while the boss was mostly healing Ixion. It was a never-ending spiral that went on for almost half an hour before I thought sod it and just closed the game. Second attempt, and after fighting with the chatbot for a bit, Aerith is out first. Within seconds it's knocked down to just 89 HP, but we have our overdrive ready. And oh, that's it. Yeah, we even got an overkill. GG, I suppose. Just a few meters / yards up the road is a frozen glacier for some reason, containing the next boss, Crawler. It's a pretty easy fight, but for some reason, rather than getting us to destroy the annoying negator thing that is preventing us from using magic spells, ChatGPT just tells us to use Lulu's physical attacks, which barely scratch the thing, and also temporarily turn her into a pseudo-healer using items. As a result, the fight goes on for what feels like an eternity, but it's finally down for the count. Here, watch this. Yeah, you can tell Auron's been left behind because he gained 14 levels from a single enemy. After taking Lulu for a snowmobile ride, it's time for the game's first of 4 Seymour boss fights. Here he's joined by his 2 Guado Guardian buddies who self-auto potion whenever they get hit, a frustrating mechanic that we'll see again later, and they also like to use various buffs which our algorithms don't allow us to deal with. The battle seems to be going nowhere, but thank the faith, Ifrit's Hellfire absolutely pops off and pushes us on to phase 2 against Seymour's summon, Anima. The thing is super tough and easily wipes the floor with most of our summons, until we inevitably come to our newest member Shiva, or as she is currently known. One diamond dust later and it's back to Seymour himself. He now has access to powerful multi-target black magic spells, which he dishes out faster than a job and knock postman. Needless to say, we get absolutely obliterated. There's only one thing for it. We need to grind some more. After obtaining precisely 4 levels, we're back for another attempt. The first phase is almost exactly the same as before, with our party members being utterly useless and therefore Ifrit has to pick up the slack. Against Anime, her overdrive utterly demolishes Ixion, leaving just Shiva to finish things off. Seymour is quick to finish her off though, and we're now exactly where we were before, just with slightly higher stats, but will it be enough to tip things in our favour? It's too early to say. Tidus is stuck wasting his turns with healing items since healing comes before overdrive in his algorithm, whereas Lulu can't exploit any weaknesses because Seymour doesn't have any. It's only when Yuna decides to act before Tidus that she's able to take control of the healing, freeing up Blitzmaster here to hit the final shot. Job done. After the chatbot fails to be able to count to 8 again, we name Shiva Blizzard, run from some Guado goons while Wakka just YOLO TPs out of there, and we're up against the Wendigo boss. While the fight plays out, I'd like to say another huge thank you to all of these fantastic individuals who support the channel through either Patreon or YouTube membership. If you'd also like to support me while gaining access to full-length unedited boss fight footage and some other bits and bobs, then please click the link in the description below. I promise it'll cost you less than your rent. These videos take a very long time to make, often well over 100 hours each, and I'm not exactly swimming in ad revenue, so your support really is appreciated. Cheers. Anyway, with Wendigo down, we're either under the lake or on top of Sin, or both, depending on who you ask. We just talk to our friends until we somehow find ourselves waking up in the Bikanel Desert.
Let me handle the Macalania. I can take them apart piece by piece.
We quickly discover that the Albed home city of, well, home is under attack. Oh no! But the battles here are super easy, so we quickly escape with Sid aboard the Fahrenheit. After receiving some sage advice from Lulu,
you or Rikku should study your magic, just in case.
We teach Fire to Rikku and get ganked by the Bevelle Guardian Dragon Every. I was expecting this fight to be super tough, especially since ChatGPT has no understanding of the airship's movement mechanics, and instead forces us to use the usual battle algorithms with a few minor adjustments, namely that Lulu can now use any of her most powerful magic spells against enemies with no weakness, and curing petrification and poison from allies takes priority during this particular fight. It's over in just 10 minutes. Good job, ChatGPT. With that, we can safely chime in with a haven't you people ever heard of closing the goddamn door, taking out endless waves of these slightly difficult but moderately annoying soldiers before Yuna does her best Celeste impression. Good job that worked out, or this would have been a much shorter game. Tidus rides some platforms, we name Bahamut Tiamat, which gets a 10 out of 10 for originality. Discover that underwater talking is actually possible, despite no one ever doing so for the rest of the game.
Where's everybody else?
And we push through the Via Purifico to 1v1 rival summoner Isaru. It's here that ChatGPT actually updates Yuna's algorithm, telling us to now prioritise healing and curing status ailments before summoning. Better update the little infographic there. Much better. For those who are interested, the fight was a complete joke because Aerith was more than capable of wiping out most of his team before Inferno finished off his Bahamut. Nice! Time for the underwater section with Tidus, Wakka and Rikku versus Every 2 Electric Boogaloo. Surprisingly, we're told that we should use the open lock function whenever it's available, which leads to an incredibly easy fight as the thing eventually gets stuck behind a gate. I'm not sure how we can still attack the thing, but hey ho. Using this method does involve skipping 2 permanently missable treasure chests, but they just contain mediocre weapons for Tidus and Wakka, so I'm pretty happy with the outcome here. With everybody happily reunited, we can push down this Bevelle corridor thingy and onto the second Seymour fight. We're told to swap Kimahri back to Lulu and we just push on with the usual battle algorithm. Seymour can now instantly KO any summon with his cheeky "Death awaits you" skill, meaning we're relying on pre-built overdrives or just single basic attacks from each of our 5 summons. Thankfully, by the time he's dismissed all 5, Seymour Natus is down to just 4102 HP, meaning he can be quickly finished off by Tidus and Lulu. I'm actually surprised with how well that went. After spending a touching moment with Yuna, we're onto the Calm Lands, which acts a bit like Grand Pulse from FF13 in that it's a late game break from the linearity, giving you a few more options to explore and side content to complete. The chatbot gets a little bit overwhelmed here, but it all basically boils down to this: visit the shops, rent a chocobo, complete mini-games, which I'm guessing means the chocobo racing, visit the Cavern of the Stolen Faith for the optional Yojimbo summon, and talk to all NPCs along the way. Right. One of the first NPCs we encounter is Belgemine. Belgemine? Am I saying that right? I don't know. Who grants us the power to raise the stats of our Aeons. Very nice. It turns into a bit of a shopping list, but we're more than happy to oblige. We're also instructed to visit Macalania Temple for the optional Belgemine fights here, but spoiler alert, we never end up obtaining Anima nor the Mega Sisters because the chatbot seemingly doesn't even know that they exist. And obviously we can't mention them to the chatbot since that would be using outside information that a new player would not normally know about, which would break one of our core rules that half of you probably skipped at the start of the video. Yeah, I see you. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Defender X was surprisingly an absolute cakewalk, so after Shiva shows Yojimbo a bit of girl power, we enter the correct dialogue option for the maximum bribery discount and manage to nab Yojimbo for just 195k. Awesome. Welcome to the team, Kenshin. Does anyone understand that reference? Because I haven't got a clue. Right. The party pushes onto Mount Gagazet, where there is a mandatory 1v2 fight using our severely underleveled Ronso friend Kimahri. I was expecting us to get absolutely obliterated here, but nah, it didn't even drop below half. Nice job, my fluffy blue dabbadee friend. Right, strap in people, because it's finally time for what is widely regarded as the most difficult boss in Final Fantasy X. Here's our setup going in. We're still making good progress through each character's sphere grid, and both Tidus and Yuna have weapons with the powerful evade and counter ability on them, which does exactly what it says on the tin. Here we go. The fight begins, and the first thing to remember is that if you lose this fight, you're forced to sit through the same several minute long unskippable cutscene again, every time, so the stakes are high. Anyway, Seymour's Lance of Atrophy has inflicted Yuna with Zombie, which reverses the effect of healing on a character, and Essener can't cleanse it, so it's over to ChatGPT for instructions. Thankfully, it knows about holy water, and so the battle can continue. After our second Aeons Hellfire, Seymour uses Reflect on himself, which means all magic spells will now bounce right off him. This means that Lulu, well... yeah, that's not me being an idiot, that's just me following the instructions. Okay, Lulu's back up with new instructions to just focus on basic attacks and items, and Ixion is out next. Thor's hammer hits hard, but as always, Seymour immediately banishes it. Shortly afterwards, Shiva's out, but her lack of overdrive means she only gets a single basic attack in before being wiped. And only seconds later, Seymour goes for his dreaded and most powerful attack, Annihilation, which deals repeated massive damage. Tidus and Lulu are dead, with Yuna clinging on with just 1 HP. Ah! Things are looking dire, but we must stick to what we've been told to do. Getting everyone back on their feet is the first priority, with Seymour throwing a cheeky flare in there to keep things even more difficult for us. Tidus' overdrive hits for 3,500, not bad, but Seymour is charging up another Annihilate. I don't think we're going to be so lucky second time around, so Bahamut here needs to end this right now. He shoots his Mega Flare for massive damage, blowing up Seymour and ending the fight. Woohoo!
And stay up there!
Yeah, you tell him, Blitzmist. After a quick hop to the summit of Mount Gagazet, we arrive at the next main story boss, Sanctuary Keeper. Its usual battle algorithms all the way, but with 40,000 HP and high defences, this thing is tanky. It wipes out Aerith within seconds, and it's during the battle with Inferno here that we're introduced to its most frustrating move. Yep, this thing can frickin' heal itself for 9999 per turn. I'd argue there's nothing more frustrating in video games than a boss who can self-heal. Well, except for whatever the hell Blizzard is up to these days. But we're unable to break the damage cap and can't stop the thing from healing itself, so we're stuck in a perpetual loop with all damage we deal just being instantly healed back up. Even Tiamat's Mega Flare, which does a respectable 24,000 damage, is only half of the boss's HP, and it's now using regen as well as Curaga for even more healing. Oh, what the hell is this boss? With Bahamut down to Photon Wings, it seems like we'll never be able to get past this fight. Is this the end of the run? Was this all a waste of time? There's only one thing that could save us now. We pay Kenshin here 10% of our money as previously instructed, and it rewards us with a moderately powerful Wakizashi. Those of you who've played this game before know exactly what we're hoping for here, but everyone else is probably like, why are you paying this guy so much money to deal 3k damage, lol? Well, check this out. Yep, Yojimbo Zanmato instantly one-hit KOs any enemy in the entire game, and I freaking love it! Job done. We can now push on to the ruined city of Zanarkand, where we play a bit of Tetris before going up against the Spectral Keeper boss. And oh my lord, this one did not go well. Not only does this thing have the ability to heavily damage any 3 adjacent allies, but it counterattacks as such anytime you inflict damage on it. It can even inflict players with Berserk, forcing them to attack, which just exacerbates the problem. The sensible thing to do would be to use the fight's unique move mechanic to split the party up around the 6 platforms, but ChatGPT either doesn't understand that mechanic or just wants us to suffer. Needless to say, we get absolutely obliterated. After arguing with the chatbot for a bit, we're told to go in with Tidus, Auron, Wakka. That means 2/3 of our team are severely underleveled and, well, it goes about as well as you'd expect. The chatbot is clearly out of its depth here and it just gives up, passing the buck back to us. Keep using your best judgment. We need to be a bit more forceful. No, I don't have a best judgment. You need to tell me what to do. Tell me how to defeat Spectral Keeper. Okay, this is looking better, except the part about Lulu using bio to inflict poison because it's probably immune to that, but let's give it a whirl. We've also been told to update our algorithms a bit. Tidus should now always use Hastiga to speed up the party on his first turn every fight, whereas Yuna's overdrive can now be used, with it being her new first priority action. Awesome. Again, let's just update the infographic there. Much better. As for Spectral Keeper, well, it seemed like this was going to tip the fight in our favour, or maybe we just got lucky here, who knows. Either way, it goes down to Tiamat's Mega Flare. That's 18,000 AP in the bag. Before we go any further though, we're told to go and level up 5 times, which is probably a good idea because the next boss can be a tough cookie. We just farm the random mobs in Zanarkand who are mostly a bit tanky and dish out high damage, but we can take them out without any major problems. 5 levels later, it's time to fight Yuna. We're told to stick to the usual algorithms, which seems like it might be bad advice, especially due to all of the various negative status ailments and insta-death mechanics that Yuna can dish out, but let's see how it goes. We kick things off with Hastiga and Valifor, who does manage to get an overdrive off before being absorbed to death. Thankfully, Lulu is immune to silence, so it's over to Ifrit now. He has no overdrive charge, but his basic attacks are enough to trigger Yunalesca's second phase, which was surprisingly quick. No overdrive for our fiery friend here though, as a final absorb wipes him out. Let's see if Ixion can do any better. She's wasting turns with trashy Hellbiters, very nice. Down to another absorb. After Lulu and Tidus do their thing, it's over to Shiva next. Again, no overdrive charge initially, but she does manage to charge one up pretty quickly thanks to all of the chip damage coming our way. Diamond Dust hits for 9999 as expected, and she's also down to another absorb. Bahamut's next with a Mega Flare ready from all that mob farming. It's 29,000 damage is enough for us to push onto the final phase. And Jesus Christ, look at that face. We're cursed from Mind Blast, meaning no more overdrive charge, so we just go for basic attacks until we're inevitably absorbed again. Tidus' overdrive tickles the thing and it's over to Kenshin, but can he pull off his Zanmato a second time? Well, in short, yes he can. GG, Yuna, GG. Now that we've reached the end of our pilgrimage, we gain full access to the Fahrenheit. We could go anywhere we want, including tons of hidden secret areas using special codes and... oh, just go straight to the places that progress the main story. Got it. For anyone who hasn't played the game before, I'd highly recommend inputting these codes as well as these coordinates to access tons of new optional side areas here. Basically, it's your chance to nab all of those pesky treasure chests that have been just out of reach throughout most of the game. Anyway, time to fight Sin. First up is his left fin, and honestly there's zero challenge here because it mostly just sits AFK while you hit it. Tiamat gets the last hit in before Sid's airship seals the deal. Ouch. The right fin is an almost identical fight, so I'll save your time. The short version, it went down to a Yojimbo Wakizashi. Nice. Our party hops on down to deal with the next foe, Sin-spawn Janace, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. Sadly, our summons have not replenished, so we only have Kenshin, who seemingly refuses to Zanmato for such meagre payments, despite multiple attempts. Lulu's Firaga is thankfully enough to overkill the first enemy, but with no summons left, Yuna is on healing/buffing duty. This phase isn't too difficult though, it's just kinda tedious, so after 4 more minutes, a final Firaga seals the deal. Ha! Now that's what I call a boss rush. It's still not over though, because after a quick rest, we're up against Sin itself, and oh, he's not happy. The thing has a whopping 140,000 health, and see this bar? Yeah, when it reaches max, Sin uses a world-ending move called Giga Graviton, which causes an instant game over, even if we have a summon out. Basically, the fight is one big DPS check, and the chatbot's algorithms just aren't built for that. Needless to say, we only get about halfway through our second summon before getting wiped. How the hell are we ever going to be able to deal 140k damage in such a short amount of time? There's only one thing for it. We need to grind some more. ChatGPT has instructed us to gain 10 levels, which takes absolutely forever, but we do as we're told before returning. But is it enough? Come on. Nope. Giga Graviton. Literally GG. We see if the chatbot wants to swap up the summons order, which it does, but it wants to put some of the weaker summons at the top of the list for some reason. Yeah, the grav hits us during the second summon, so that made absolutely no difference. Does this advanced AI have any more words of wisdom for us? Yeah, just level up, lol. 6 levels later, and we're back for our 4th attempt. We've been told to go in with Wakka instead, which I strongly doubt will make a very big difference. If anything, it'll just make things worse, but we've also been told to swap up the order of summons. Specifically, we have to start with Bahamut before using your Jimbo second, hoping for a Zanmato. Alright, now this is a plan I can get behind. Let's go. Mega Flare deals a tasty 39k damage, but we still have 101,000 to go. The pair exchange blows before a second Mega Flare deals a slightly lower, yet still respectable 35k. The problem is that Sin's mouth is now fully open and its Giga Grav is ready to go. We're hitting for 6k a turn, but it's going to use it next turn. Come on. Yeah! Woo! Bloody hell, that was close. Thanks, ChatGPT. You're welcome. We're now inside Sin for the very final area of the game, but look who's back, being a nuisance as always. Yep, a guy who can laugh without even opening his mouth. That's kind of creepy, to be honest. Seymour Omnis is an interesting boss in that his elemental affinity corresponds to the 4 wheels surrounding him, but ChatGPT isn't interested in those, oh no. We're forced to stick to our algorithms and hope for the best. The problem? Well, check this out. Wait, is the game crashed or something? Well, thankfully not. It's just Seymour taking many consecutive turns, each turn consisting of 4 uses of Firaga. Yeah, this fight went on for a very long time. I'll upload the full version onto Patreon for anyone who's interested, but in short, he fell to a beefy Mega Flare. So, after dodging some icicles and collecting some gems, it's time for the 2 final bosses, the first of which is Jecht, aka Braska's final Aeon. Here's our setup going in. In terms of sphere grids, we've completed the quote main paths, with Tidus now onto the Q-Raga node, and Lulu and Yuna are more towards the centre. And here's the equipment we've been told to use for anyone who's interested. Let's do this. Jecht is a massive opponent with a ton of HP, 60k in his first phase, then 120k in his second. He's also joined by 2 pagodas who constantly heal him and are generally just a nuisance. But the chatbot wants us to ignore those and just focus on the main boss itself using our usual algorithms. Okay, well, let's see how it goes. Valefor's already been wiped and Ifrit is next into the meat grinder. Thankfully, its overdrive does temporarily take out the left pagoda, but it goes down in a few turns all the same. We finally have a chance to swap out Auron for our usual party member Lulu, whose Firaga deals almost 5k damage before Yuna summons Ixion. Thor's hammer deals max damage and stops the 2 pagodas, great, but Jecht now has his overdrive. Luckily for us, it's kinda crap. Both pagodas soon get moving again and we get slapped out of there. Shiva's up next, but it's basically the same deal, temporarily stopping both pagodas before getting instantly KO'd. Bahamut's up next with his usual Mega Flare, which deals massive damage, 3 lots of 40k plus, wow! Jecht clearly isn't very happy about that though, and it's time for his second phase. Jecht has his sword now and can deal significantly more damage. I'm pretty confident that once we run out of summons, we're going to have a bloody bad time here, so we just have to pray that the next Mega Flare can hit some big numbers again. The Jecht Bomber Overdrive barely scratches us as always, and we hit for another 40k, nice. But he's still got 80k remaining and is healing up almost every turn. Meanwhile, Bahamut is down and we only have 1 summon left. Come on, Yojimbo, do the thing, do the thing, do the thing. That's not the thing. Oh, I mean, still decent, but we're going to get wiped at this rate. Here, have some more gil. Oh, come on, you didn't even aim at the boss that time. We get Osmos slapped. Watch Jecht heal himself yet again, and it's back to Kenshin. Okay, 10% is 6,540. Oh, there it is, the little nod. Yes, let's go. See you later, Jecht. But it's not over yet. After waking up on a giant version of Jecht's sword for some reason, we show our appreciation to our loyal summons by, well, obliterating them one by one. We use Wakazashis and Zanmatos to take them all down until it comes to Yojimbo himself, who needs a little bit more encouragement. It's worth noting though that from this point on, all party members have auto life, meaning that if any of them die, they just get infinitely resurrected, so you can't actually lose this part of the game unless you deliberately petrify yourself, but who would do that? But just because we can't lose doesn't mean we can necessarily win. Check this out, the actual final boss, Yevon, heals itself for 9999 anytime we even scratch it, plus the 2 pagodas are also healing it every turn just like they did with Jecht. With no summons and no way of breaking the damage limit, how on earth are we ever going to get past this thing? Well, after a very long experimental session, we're told to just keep the 2 pagodas dead and then just sit there defending and healing ourselves with items. This is actually a very clever strategy from ChatGPT, as it clearly understands that Yevon's Gravager, which also damages itself, will eventually defeat itself if we just sit back and just not interact with it. it eventually falls down to just 1900 HP, meaning Tidus can run in and deal the final blow. Can ChatGPT beat Final Fantasy X HD Remaster? Well, after a couple of thousand prompts, yes, it just needs a bit of clever questioning to push it in the right direction at times. If you'd like to see ChatGPT take on another game, let me know in the comments, but for now, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later everyone. Cheers. Minigame time! I've hidden 5 references to the legendary FF7 villain Sephiroth into this video, and I'm curious if you managed to spot any of them. The first person to name all 5 in the comments section will get a shout out in next month's challenge run. Good luck!